Hi, I'm going to speak about the future of the internet and the necessity of fractal-based meta modeling. Now, when one looks at the growth of the internet, it's apparent that it's following this paradigm as represented by a seed becoming a flower. There are three distinct stages in this: the physical, the vital, and the mental. And in this physical stage, what we have is a number of technologies coming together that represent the internet. And to begin with, in its possibility, it's static. There's not much use with it. But then, as it germinates, there's a proliferation of the use of the internet. We see it entering a far more dynamic stage. And in this dynamic stage, there are a vast number of users who continually increase. There's increase in the amount of content, and then there's an incredible increase in the amount of interaction that's taking place through the internet. And in itself, this is more of a randomly dynamic phenomenon, characteristic of the vital level. So what we see is an exponential growth. And one of the problems of this phase is that because of the vast amount of data that's presented to a user at any point in time, it's easy for a user to get overwhelmed and to not be able to make sense of all the data that exists. And so what is necessary in order for the internet to sustain itself is for meaning to become embedded in the way that the internet operates. And therefore, where we're at right now is at this stage where we have to cross over into the mental level, so where the flower is apparent and meaning and purpose are apparent, and there has to be a layer of meaning embedded in the way that the internet itself works, and therefore there's a necessity of some kind of meta modeling. And to give an example, currently what happens is that the human being, when they look at a web page, they derive meaning from the web page. Now, if we have a proliferation of web pages, it becomes more and more difficult for the human being to derive meaning from all the data and content. And therefore what's necessary is for a machine or a computer to be able to derive meaning from the internet itself. So meta modeling is itself a necessity. The question is, what kind of meta modeling? And here I would propose that it makes most sense to create a fractal-based meta model. And the fractal, the advantage of this is that what will happen is that this model would then be applicable for many different layers or levels of organizational complexity. So for instance, it would be applicable for the individual level, for the team level, for a business unit level, for a corporation level, for an organization level, for a country level, for a market, for a system, and perhaps even for some kind of microdynamics. So the advantage of the fractal-based meta model is that if you have one model that can apply or derive meaning for various different levels that may be using or exist on the internet, and this fractal-based model is itself represented by this growth from the seed to the flower, which is a universal paradigm for organizational dynamics and growth. So what I would propose is a meta model that has three distinct parts to it. First, there's a part that indicates what level any data exists at. So that in itself, as already mentioned, is represented by these levels. So from microdynamics all the way up through a global system. Then second, what is required or necessary in such a meta model is the essence of that level. And the essence is derived or is represented by the three stages fundamentally of this universal paradigm of organization. So we may have data that exists at the physical level, the vital level, the mental level, or that represents transition from the physical to vital, or transition from the vital to mental, or transition perhaps from the mental to an intuitional level. And in itself, this is going to provide us with a lot of insight into the level and the data that we are presented with. And then third, being a fractal model, there's going to be a number of meta insights that apply. And while I won't go into these in much detail, but I've written about it and spoken about it a fair amount in the past, there are, in such a fractal-based model, when you know the level and you know the essence of that level, you have meaning from such characteristics as universality, recursion, fractal flow, mirroring, uniqueness, and so on. So what I would propose is that we have this three-part meta model that can help the internet derive meaning from the content that exists on it.